Welcome back to another edition of the Pagcast. I'm your host, Michael Pagani, joined alongside Lehigh Valley Phantoms forward Kurtis Gabriel. Kurtis, thank you again for coming on.
No problem, buddy. I'm glad I hit the right day this time. I joined last time a couple weeks early, didn't I? I put it in my reminders a little early, so I'm glad to be on here now.
You know, a lot of people have turned on Netflix during this pandemic. What have you been doing during quarantine?
Yeah, I try to leave the Netflix just if my girlfriend wants to watch, or maybe just like a half hour before bed to shut my brain off, get off the phone. But I've been using this time as wisely as I can, training a lot for next season, whenever that may start, trying to use this long layoff to improve my game and keep going after my dream of playing in the NHL full time. But other than that, I've been educating myself on activism, on these social issues that I'm trying to advocate for, and want to kind of be ready when more of those kind of engagements come up for me.
With hockey returning today as we speak, have you been watching any sports that have returned?
I have not. First thing I've tuned into was just before this to see the first period of the Flyers Penguins. I've been trying to just kind of focus on myself during this time, and I'm going to try not to watch too much hockey. I usually get sucked into watching a ton. I'm going to try to, maybe limit it to a little bit a day here and there. Obviously, it's going to be really crazy in the first round, but just hockey.
How has your whole perception on the coronavirus changed since March?
I don't think it's changed much, honestly. I'm one of the fortunate people, and I know that it hasn't affected me as much. Obviously, I'm not going to get paid to the next hockey season, but we get paid decently well as pro hockey players at the level I've played at. So I've just been trying to not worry about what I can't control. But obviously, it's been a tough time for some people I know. I have a new marketing guy who's from Brooklyn, and the whole family got touched by it, and they lost their leader of the community. And basically in Brooklyn, if you didn't get coronavirus, you were an outlier. So that's pretty scary. So I kind of expected it was going to be bad. So I don't know if it's changed too much, just that, it's just another example of bad stuff happens in life, and you got to find a way to change your perspective and mindset and try to make a positive out of it.
Getting into your story a bit here, who influenced you to start hockey?
I always liked hockey, but I guess my dad, he played hockey a bit. My mom was more of a volleyball, basketball, soccer goalie. He was more of a baseball, basketball guy, but I took to hockey. I think it's because it's just the biggest sport where I'm from, just north of Toronto, Newmarket, Ontario. So I think that's why it's always had the pull for me. And obviously it being the greatest game in the world, we all know that. It's such a tough, demanding sport, and you have to be so good at so many different things. I think that's what drew it to me the most.
Yeah, like some of the skills aren't even you can't even replicate them with the other sports that we talk about.
Yeah, not many sports you play with a stick, right? And you have to also be on skates and on ice, surface we're not used to, and you have to be able to be, sprint like a sprinter, but have endurance like a marathon runner. Like you got to have every kind of energy system, every kind of skill. It's a very particular sport, and I find that very interesting.
You got drafted by Owen Sound all the way back in 2010. What did you learn in Owen Sound that you could use to your game today?
I walked on to Owen Sound as a free agent. I was a free agent walk-on there. So I was shocked to get on that team to begin with. But what got me there was just playing physical and showing how hard and how bad I wanted it. Doing well in the fitness testing, preparing myself for that camp. I think that's really what got me through the door more than anything, and obviously the willingness to play a physical game.
You did make the playoffs 3 times with Owen Sound. How special were those playoff moments as a junior player?
Yeah, that's where you make your money as a hockey player, right? I don't think if I had a good playoffs that year, I would have got drafted by Minnesota my third year, but it was great being in the playoffs those years. Owen Sound's a perennial kind of contender for a small market team, and probably the toughest division in CHL. So I thought it was great, and I haven't played much playoff hockey since then. So I'm really looking back to those times fondly.
Getting drafted to the NHL is no joke. You have to be on the grind, on the ball since day one. You were fortunate enough to be selected in the third round of the 2013 NHL draft. When did you realize you had a legit shot of making the NHL?
Probably when my GM told me and my mom at Christmas of my third year that I was going to get drafted. I didn't even know I was still eligible as a third-year eligible player, so I was shocked to get drafted. I mean, so I guess halfway through that third year, Owen Sound, when I kind of knew, okay, maybe I'll have a decent chance of playing if I continue to work like this and continue to improve.
So is that when that second gear set in for you? Is when you found out that you could get drafted?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a second gear. It was more of just like I was already going hard as heck in first gear, but I was ready to. I mean, I was giving it all I had. It just kind of gave me some more affirmation behind what I was doing. That I didn't just believe it anymore. Other people believed in me that I could be more than I was at the time. They could see the potential.
You've been through the ringer of the system. You know, you've been called up and sent down many times between the Iowa Wild and the Minnesota Wild. How does that affect your mindset?
Yeah, it was tough sometimes. Most of the time it was fine because I didn't think I was ready some of those times going up there, but other times when you feel like you did a good job or you felt like you were ready, yeah, it was super tough. I wasn't ready to handle that properly back then, to be honest with you. I thought I was. And now kind of being 27 years old and 3 years removed from being there, it's kind of obvious that I didn't handle those things probably the right way, but my intention was always in the right place. I was a super emotional guy and wanted it really bad. And didn't really understand that life's not fair yet. Had kind of had an up and down to get there, and finally realized now that maybe I wasn't ready, but you still have that burr in your saddle. You're still a proud athlete. So yeah, it's definitely something very tough to deal with, but some guys are just more emotionally ready at that age,
Do you play every AHL game like it's your last, since you have been called up before?
I mean, I think I try to play every game with to the best of my ability. There's a long season. Sometimes you're gassed going into games, but the intention is to always go play your hardest and play your best. I'm not really a guy that has an opportunity to take games off, being a fourth line type of player, physical type of player. So I'm constantly trying to improve my skills to prove that I belong here and can contribute in a fourth line role. So yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to go in there and play every game like it's my last.
You played your first NHL game, I believe it was in the playoffs with the Minnesota Wild in the 2015-16 season. Do you remember how nervous you were?
I played my first game in that regular season. I wasn't super nervous. I was, I would say, just extremely energized. I just had a feeling like, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. It's about time I get my first game. I feel good about it. Let's just go use this adrenaline rush I'm going to have. I'm sure I'm not going to run out of energy, so let's just go give her heck. And I think you get more kind of maybe nervous the longer you're up there. You're trying to stick around, stick up there. You kind of adrenaline rush runs off, falls away. So you kind of got to go back to yourself and get yourself pumped. And it's weird. It's a weird thing. It's adrenaline does a lot of things for you, and it can kind of go away that initial rush. You go, I got to stay here now. So that's what I haven't been able to do. I've had a couple stints where I've been up, but I haven't been able to stick full time.
You turned into a bit of a goon there, amassing a career high in PIMS during the same season with 137. Were some of those just stepping up for your teammate?
Yeah, I wouldn't call myself a goon. First of all, I don't think you should call guys that. I think that's kind of like a derogatory term to our role. Goon implies that you can't play the game at all, whereas I feel like to play in today's game with it so fast and it's so so skilled to have a job still playing a tough guy role. I think you got to realize that we can play a game. It's not like the guy in that movie Goon that just slaps on skates who's a boxer and can't skate. So I like to call myself, if you're going to call me anything, maybe like a
grinder.
I like grinder. I mean, it fits it. I'm a grinder that's willing to stick up for my teammates and play extremely physical. So yeah, it's part of my game. If I'm rolling and feeling good, it's really easy to do. Sometimes it's the grind when, as the name says it, when your things aren't going well and you've got maybe beat up a couple times, but you always got to show up for your teammates and show up for yourself. So I think it's a valued part of the game that will never go away. I think there'll always be the opportunity to guys to play physical. Just got to keep up with the rest of the guys.
And I also think that physical players come in clutch times when it comes to the playoffs, because, the playoffs are such a different beast than the regular season.
Yeah. You saw St. Louis, they didn't necessarily have like a super tough guy. Patty Maroon, he thinks he's pretty tough. I guess he wrestles guys that are big. He's a big guy. So, but they had a lot of players that were willing to play physical. Sammy Blaze, Oscar Sundquist even was hitting guys hard. You got to have that mentality as a big, heavy team. And that's what's going to shut teams down. That's what's going to make them not willing to play anymore. I think a lot of teams want to play against highly skilled teams. Everybody wants to play a skilled game and lose. Nobody wants to play a tough team and lose.
Would you be able to take me through your first NHL goal with the New Jersey Devils?
One of my good friends, Brett Sini, he trains with me here in London, Ontario. He told me, Gaber, just be ready to shoot that puck. It was a face-off on the left side of the offensive zone. So I stood on the wall to get on my strong side as a right-hand shot, and it came to me. And I just let it rip, and I shot a little wide, but Anders Nielsen reached up to catch it, and it kind of trickled off his glove and went in the net. I didn't really see it go in. I just kind of saw everybody, cheer, and it was a great feeling just to feel like, 9 games in there, I got my first goal. I hadn't been able to get a goal in Minnesota in my time there, so felt like, okay, something's different now. I feel like I can contribute again. And really my second goal felt like my first goal because it was on Carey Price. It was against your Montreal Canadiens. It was a game-winning goal. That was the goal that really gave me an opportunity to see it go in. I knew it was going to happen. I got to celebrate. I got to jump into the glass, scream. That was the best feeling in my life, hands down.
And would you say that it adds to the moment that you scored on a Hall of Fame goalie in Carey Price? Yeah,
absolutely. But what adds to it more is that I had pride tape on my stick, and that's a big thing. I'm about support for the LGBTQ 2S+ community. So I scored a goal for inclusion there, and a lot of people took notice of that. And ever since then, I've been wearing the tape on my stick. So it was great. It was on Carey Price, but it was also huge for me just because I could, help a lot of people out and make them feel included in the sport of hockey.
Would you say that you were snake bitten in the, chances before?
I wouldn't say that. No, I think I need to be a bit more offensive minded. I'm so worried about not getting scored on, so worried about playing my role to a T that I kind of put scoring to the wayside because it doesn't really define my game. But I definitely do need to generate some more chances. So, I don't get a lot of shots. That's probably why I haven't stuck up there. I haven't been able to generate enough offensively. So that's what I'm looking forward to do more. So at the time, hadn't had too many chances, to be honest.
Do you think that just has to deal with self-confidence?
Yeah, for sure. And just being so, one track minded that I'm a grinder guy, not here to get points, here to play the right way. But if you're playing the right way, you should be getting some chances here and there. So just being ready to shoot the puck and working on my game. And it's going to bring more confidence. So I think it's a big part of it.
You mentioned earlier when I asked you about Owen Sound, about the playoffs, that you haven't really gotten the opportunity to play in them since. How disappointing is it, not to get your chance to play in the playoffs?
It's extremely. I played 4 games in the playoffs in Minnesota, but other than that, I haven't been in 6 years in the American League. I haven't made the playoffs with the team, so that's extremely frustrating. I take it personally that I've been on 6 teams in a row that haven't made the playoffs, so not too happy about that. If I do end up in the minors again, I really, really want to be on a good team and contributing on a good team.
What can you do yourself to make sure you lead your team to the playoffs?
Well, I'm definitely not going to lead my team to the playoffs. As a grinder, that's not my job. I'm just there to play physical, play a role on the team. If I can do that role, I don't necessarily even lead a line. I'm a complimentary type player, so I just try to do my job.
How big was the move from New Jersey to Philadelphia for you and your family?
I don't have a family, so I just moved down there by myself. I lived in a hotel in Jersey. I never played for the Flyers. I actually played in the Lehigh the whole time, so I was in Allentown.
Did you move in with a teammate?
I did not. I lived by myself. I like kind of doing my own thing. I would go obviously hang out with the guys all the time, though, but it's nice to have a place to get away from hockey if you want to.
How did you find out the season was going to get canceled?
It was a Friday. I can't remember the date, but it was a Friday. We had a game that night, and I was pretty pumped to play. But then we just got a group message after we were all at home after morning skate, and just said, "Don't bother coming in. There's no game tonight. Season's been put on hold." And we kind of all just got together as a team and chatted about it and tried not to worry about it. Couldn't control it, right? So just check everybody back home safe, make sure that virus hasn't gotten anybody, and then stay safe from there and not get overexposed, because we are obviously pretty close to New York City, which was the worst place.
Next year, there may be no fans in the stands. How will that affect your play?
Well, if I'm in the minors, I don't even know if there'll be an AHL season because that's a fan kind of driven league there. They need fans in the seats to make some money, I guess. So I don't know how that's going to play out. Hopefully I can get a chance in the NHL again. If that's the case, I wouldn't mind it at all. I think it'll just give me more room to make some scary noises and chirp other guys on the team and try to intimidate when I go hit guys. Maybe they'd be able to hear me a bit more. Maybe they'd be able to show a bit more personality. Maybe it'd be too much. I don't know, but I think it'd be fun. Hockey's an intense, crazy game when we're even playing in the summer against each other. We go at each other hard, so I don't think it'll be too much of a difference for me.
How do you create a sense of normalcy for the players?
I don't know if you do. I think just what they're doing right now with this return to play, it's basically going to be like you're playing in a tournament growing up and you're at a rink with not many people in it. and just going at each other. So I think it's great. I think it goes back to the essence of the game. Of course, you want fans. Of course, fans are what pay our salaries and make the game great. But you got to look at the positives of it, and either embrace it or you don't.
I want to get into your activism here for a bit. You are a huge advocate for the Pride community, like you said. How did you get started on it, and where are you now?
Well, I got started using it for that game in New Jersey when I scored against the Canadians. And from there, it kind of took on a life of its own. People really appreciated it. So I just figured as long as I have the tape, why not put it on my stick if it's going to help so many people? And from there, learning more about the community and educating myself, these are the nicest people in the world. They're the most accepting, courageous people that, not everybody lives their true self. Not everybody wakes up and is exactly who they want to be because they're scared about other people's opinions. They have parents that are telling them no, and they agree with their parents. Like, it takes a very brave person to break out of that and do their own thing. So I'm very proud of those people. I consider myself friends with all these people, and I just want them to be treated equally. I want them to be judged by their character and their kindness and their empathy and their compassion, and not who they love.
And how do you make sure that, these people don't feel pressure in coming out to their parents? Because like you said, multiple parents are, leaning towards the side of like, no, I don't want my kid to feel this way.
Well, I mean, I think there's going to be pressure doing it regardless. I don't think you can lessen that. It just depends on what kind of parent you have. If you have a super hardcore religious family, it's going to be really tough and they might disown you. If you have a family that's super open-minded, it'll go totally different. I've seen both sides of it. One side's obviously a lot better than the other, but I just don't get how anyone, even God, even people who believe in God, think that they have the right to tell someone who they love. It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's 2020. We have all the science there is now, and people don't want to hear that. But I mean, if you can keep your opinions to yourself. If you think that's how it should be, I don't think you got to go spreading it around and hurting people's, way of life. At the end of the day, people can say what they want, and that's what makes the LGBTQ2S plus people so proud and courageous that they're going to keep living their lives anyway.
Now, obviously, Pride does have its own month. What do you do during the Pride month?
Well, this year we had to celebrate virtually, so no Pride parades, none of that. So just tried to be active on social media, post a celebratory video on the last weekend of Pride Month when the NHL celebrated it. Just trying to keep my DMs open when anybody wants to message me if they're having any thoughts or they want to share something, want someone to listen to. It's judgment free. I'm going to support you if anything, and stays private. So I just try to help any way I can that way. And we have some great things coming in the future that will help change hockey culture.
And how big is it for you, like, with all these big leagues taking on their own responsibility to promote pride in their game?
Yeah, it's something that, the NHL wants to do in a third-party way. They don't want to join other groups that exist. They want to handle everything their way and keep it with no politics. I see where they're coming from, but I think the world is what it is. Sports is not a vacuum. It's part of society, and if anything, it's amplified part of society. And people have platforms. People are famous. Should have no problem with guys speaking out and trying to include that and making a difference.
Now, I just want to ask you before we end this interview here, what advice would you give to aspiring hockey players?
I think all the answers are on the internet now. I think the advice would be to go on, educate yourself. Just like I wasn't passionate about every subject in school, but the subjects I liked, I read up on them. I did extra work on them. I enjoyed them. So if you like hockey or you say you like hockey, you should get on the internet and become a bookworm of hockey and find the best skills coaches on the internet, find the best tutorials of how to teach yourself the game. If your parents have money, get a skills coach, start lifting weights at 15, 16 years old. There's endless amount of possibilities and opportunities. And now with green biscuits, rollerblades, you can work on your game off the ice, Mars blades. So I think there's no excuse you want to be a good hockey player. It's just how hard you want to work and how big your imagination is.
Well, I'd like to thank Lehigh Valley Phantoms forward Kurtis Gabriel for joining me on today's Pagcast. Thank you again, Kurtis.
No problem. Thanks, buddy.